Today we're on to welcome Abby Beale to the show today. I'm very excited to have her on. She's talking about homeopathy today, which is a very interesting facet of natural medicine, right? There's many modalities in this space, but this is something that I find very interesting, right? Kind of like cures like in a sense. And there's a lot of history, a lot of kind of nuances within it. I'm very excited to bring this to people to actually see if this is right for them and help utilize it in their own lives. So I'm very excited to have her on, share her story and her insights with us today. So how you doing?
Great. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
For sure. So very curious to hear your story. Now you got into homeopathy, natural medicine, and how you're being of service today.
Sure. It's certainly a story, and I appreciate your asking. I think it will resonate with some other people. So when I was younger, I had a pediatrician. I always went to the doctor. Actually, he lived 2 doors down. So whenever we had something wrong, he would come by and he would fix everything. And, that's what it was. But then as I got older and had a child, my first child, at 9 months old, he started having ear infections. And those are horrible for kids. They're screaming and they can't tell you what's wrong. You just know there's something wrong. And so brought him to the pediatrician, gave him antibiotics, went away for about a week after it was done. Then they said, oh, no, it came back. You got to take another dose of antibiotics. This went on for about 7 or 8 months. And so he was taking 7 or 8, courses of antibiotics. And then they said, you know what, I think it's time for us to look at doing surgery and putting tubes in his ears. And I was like, I know that's standard of care. However, I'm a mom, and if my son doesn't have to go through surgery, I would rather that not happen. So let me see what I can find before we go there. So I went looking around, and my own mother, who got into natural healing late in life, said to me, have you ever gone to a homeopath? And I remember saying to her, homo what? I had no idea what it was, never heard of it. This was in 1996. So this is a different time. I couldn't Google it or anything like that. But she just reassured me that it was something I should do. And listen to your mother, right? So I found there were 3 of them listed in the Yellow Pages, which is the directory we had before the internet, and in my state. And I went to one with my son, who of course was still like 18 months old, nonverbal, meaning he couldn't describe his pain. He couldn't say, yeah, it hurts when I lay on my side, or, it's throbbing. Like, you got nothing from him. So we spent 90 minutes together, and the homeopath was asking all these questions that had nothing to do with his ears. He asked about the ears, but then he said, tell me about his behavior. Tell me about his sleeping position. Tell me about what he likes, what he dislikes. What kind of food is he attracted to? What does he drink? All those things. And I was like, I don't know why he's asking this stuff. This has nothing to do with his ears. But when we were done, he went into his cabinet, brought out these little white sugar pellets and said, here, just give this to your son, have him put them in his mouth, let him suck on them, and let's see how he does. And I looked at the guy and I thought, what? I'm like, what's this? All right, whatever. So gave him these little pellets. The ear infection went away and never came back. Yeah, exactly. My eyebrows were like, what the heck just happened here? I had no idea. But then he got sick again, as kids do, and I brought him back to the homeopath, and he found some other little white pellets and gave it to him, and he got better. And I'm like, what is this stuff? And then I said, let me try it. I went to him because I was like, I had a little postpartum depression. I was just I was just having some mental, emotional stuff. And I said, let me check this out. Went to him. He did the interview with me, same questions that had nothing to do with how I was feeling, but just my physical things and how my upbringing and all this stuff. Gave me some pellets, and my mood lifted like it was like the clouds just parted. Within a few days. It took a little while, but it was like I got better. And I said, this is so different. I need to know more about it. And so that's where it all started, way back then. And I just said, in between, at the time I had my own business and I had my family. I started reading, I started studying some, and then I'd go to a conference. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to school. I got to go to school. I got to learn this. So by 2003, I registered for a school. It was a part-time gig, so I could still manage my family and my other business. And it took me about 10 years of the experience to finally get nationally certified. And then I eventually gave up my other practice, my other business, and now I'm a full-time homeopath. There's the story. Glad you asked.
Incredible. Wow. So it
Yeah.
sounds like you're kind of skeptical at first, but then you put these things into play, and it seems like you actually got the results that you weren't expecting.
Totally. With homeopathy, you don't, it's not just you take, like Tylenol and you feel better. It's like things shift because it's energy medicine, not chemical medicine. And that's what makes it so unique is how it resonates with the body. So when people are sick and they have a chronic illness, a lot of times the energy in the body is stuck, and so the healing doesn't happen. The body wants to heal. The body definitely wants to heal, but if something is preventing it from healing, it gets stuck, and that's where chronic disease comes in. So homeopathy can help, depending on the situation, can definitely help to unravel some of that problem, or we call it the dis-ease, not disease, but the dis-ease that the body has.
Exactly. Yeah. And in the beginning, it sounds like you're starting to ask questions, right, with the doctor. Like they were perhaps asking different questions that may have not been asked before. So it seems like they have this level of curiosity to kind of tailor an approach.
Yeah, and now as a homeopath, when people say to me, "I have a headache, what do you have?" And I go, "I got lots of questions," because it's very individualized. If there were 5 people in front of me or 10 people in front of me, all with a headache, it's not like, oh, everyone take Tylenol or everyone take Motrin. It's more like, well, I need to know a lot of things about your headache. When did it start? What was going on in your life? What's it making you do? Are you nauseous? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Where is it in your head? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Is it throbbing? Is it stitching? Is it like, can you move your head? Do you need to lay down? I mean, see what I mean? Got lots of questions. So it's not as simple as I have this, take this. It's more like I have this, and then all these different questions we have to ask in order to come up with that one thing that's going to resonate with that person's issues.
Got it. Makes sense. So, can you
Good.
explain what homeopathy is as an overview, like a general definition and how it will be implemented on a practical level?
So homeopathy is an energy medicine that's non-toxic, meaning it doesn't go through your stomach, doesn't go through your liver. It's energy medicine. And so because of that, it is a very different animal. It's non-toxic, inexpensive, and very effective when the right remedy is chosen for the right sets of symptoms. That's the simple way to put it.
Got it. Makes sense. Do you want to speak to the history of it? Like, how did it start? How far back does it go? Any thoughts on that?
I got lots of thoughts on that. So I'm going to be mentioning. I have a book that I put out there in the world called Homeopathy Primer, and chapter 1 talks all about the history of homeopathy. So I'll summarize it. Basically, there was a doctor named Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, and for anybody that lives in Washington D.C., you will see it's the only monument that was erected for a doctor in anywhere of DC. It was in 1900. It was put there. So homeopathy was a big thing here in the United States back in 1900. He started homeopathy, or he created the concept of homeopathy around the late 1700s, early 1800s. He was a medical doctor himself back then. And if you remember anything about those kinds of doctors, what they did is that they would use things like leeches to take the blood, to try to heal people by taking their blood out, meaning they're thinking that they need to have it taken out because it's bad. They would make people vomit. They're called emetics. People vomit to get rid of it, have diarrhea, and people would die from that because it would just totally deplete them. And Samuel Hahnemann said, you know what? I don't like being a doctor. I'm not healing anybody. This is really harmful. So he stopped his medical practice, and he instead decided he wanted to do research. He could do medical research. So he did that. And so he was translating medical research, I guess, into German or from German. He was German himself. And he was reading in there that there was a cinchona bark, which is quinine, was supposedly effective for malaria, which is like a very bad diarrhea fever disease, because it was bitter and astringent. And he was like, that kind of doesn't make sense to me because there are other things that are bitter and astringent and it doesn't really help with malaria. So he decided, the first thing he did is he said, let me try this. So he ate some cinchona bark, the material substance of it. And interestingly, he got sick like someone who had malaria. And it was very interesting. He just kind of rode with it, and eventually it went away. And he said, wow, that's really interesting. What if I take less? Let me see what happens. So he did it again. Crazy guy, right? He does it again, and some of the same symptoms were there. And he said, what if I make it really, really small? And so he went through this process and he ended up coming up with this thing called the homeopathic dose. So he would take the cinchona bark, he would kind of grind it up so that it would become like a paste and add some water to it. And then he would highly dilute it in sequential water dilutions. So he would put a drop of that into, let's say, a bottle, and then you would hit it really hard. Back then it was on a Bible or a book, really hard. So it would make the energy of that cinchona bark in that bottle, exponential. So that was called a 1 centesimal. Then you take 1 drop of that, you put that into another jar, another clean jar, and you do the same thing. You hit it really hard 10 times. That's a 2 centesimal. 1 drop of that goes into the next jar. That becomes, hit it 10 times. That's a 3 centesimal. And nowadays, we can buy over the counter 6C, 12C, 30C easily. In my practice, I use 200C, 1000C, and 10,000C. So, it can get very strong, but the regular general public can buy 6, 12, or 30C remedy easily, over the counter now. And back then I think 30C was one of his highest potencies because he had to do everything by hand. And that's how homeopathy came to be, where those symptoms were helped, the symptoms of malaria were helped by cinchona bark in a homeopathic form. It didn't make them sicker, it made them better. So there's a history.
Awesome.
I hope that was clear.
Yeah, for sure. So
Okay.
It also sounds like cures like. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yep. That was kind of the same concept of the cinchona bark, that if somebody's healthy, takes cinchona bark, they get the symptoms of the malaria, right? But if someone has the symptoms of malaria, you give them the cinchona bark in homeopathic form, they get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it seems like it's a tailored approach on a case-to-case basis too, right?
Yes, definitely. It's about a person's symptoms. So if these are the person's symptoms and this is the remedy, you want to make them match. They need to match completely for the most part in order for healing to happen. And so that's where all those questions come into play, and matching a remedy to the symptoms is also very important.
Got it. Can you give some examples of perhaps some cases you've dealt with and some results that you got?
Oh my God, I've got so many of them. I guess the first thing I just want to share is this thing called Arnica montana. This is a boiron, B-O-I-R-O-N, blue tube remedy. Arnica montana, I call it the gateway drug into homeopathy. And this is for bumps and bruises. It could be after a tooth surgery. I used it for my son. So one of my other son, when he was born, it was, I carry this all the time. So here's a good story. We were in Walmart, and he's a little kid walking behind the metal cart, and he tripped and fell and hit his head right here. And of course he starts crying, and there's this big egg that comes up. It starts swelling up, and he's crying. I'm like, oh my goodness, oh my God, do I have Arnica with me? And I had it with me. We went to the front of the store, we sat down. I gave him a couple of these pellets in his mouth. Within about 10 minutes, he stopped crying, and I was watching physically the bump slowly go back into his head. It was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And that can be what Arnica does. Or if you have gotten a tooth pulled and your mouth is really, really sore, you take a dose of Arnica and it can kind of take the pain down. This is also something I took when I had a C-section. I did not need painkillers. I took Arnica to help the healing and the inflammation. I was sore, very sore, but I had no pain. And so these are some stories that are real life. This is my life, and there are other people that I can share their stories. But this is such a great remedy for people to carry for all kinds of situations like that. So that's one. I'll give you another one. We were on vacation, and my mother-in-law, she is an older woman, and she bumped her hip, just bumped it on the counter, and it was like not a big deal. And the next day she was like, oh, it's so sore. It's really hard to walk. And I said, let's try some Arnica. So we gave her some Arnica and like a couple of doses in the day, and she's like trucking again. She's doing all right. She said it feels better. Then on vacation, and my brother-in-law was making some tea with a teapot. So this is on the stove where you hold on to the teapot and you turn it. So he boiled the water, and this is a place that we don't know, so we don't know the teapot. The water whistled, grabbed the top of it, and it was hot. It was metal. Stupid. I don't know why people make them like that. But he grabbed it, and he was like, ah! Of course, and his whole hand got really red and hot and swollen. Of course, it was burning. It wasn't like raw, so it wasn't a horrible, horrible burn, like it wasn't through the skin. Thank goodness, we would have probably gone to the hospital for that. But it was really, really difficult for him. And so I started to give him a remedy called cantharis. Cantharis is a great remedy. It's made from a Spanish fly for burns. And so I gave it to him like every 10 minutes for like an hour. And he said, it's starting to feel a little bit better, but I really still want to have some cold on it. And I said, okay, put some cold on it. And then through the day, we gave him a couple more doses. And by the next day, I said to him, show me your hand. Let me see how you're healing. And I looked at his hand. I'm like, which hand was it? It was like the hand had a tiny little line on it. The next day, I was like, oh my goodness, that was amazing. And so there's another story. I mean, there are so many stories like that when we talk about acute prescribing, like a burn, a bee sting, a bump or a bruise. It's like you can use homeopathy for those unexpected acute situations at home by yourself. You don't need a homeopath. You do need a homeopath if you have persistent migraines, irritable bowel syndrome, depression, anxiety, acne, things like that. You probably want a homeopath for. But so many things you can do all on your own. It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I've used Arnica before. It's incredible.
Can I ask how you used it?
Yeah, it was many years back. It was like I believe like I had some type of injury I was using it for as like a pain reliever. It was really helpful for that, I remember.
Good. Thank you for your vote of confidence for that. That's great.
Yeah. It's cool because like we have all these tools and we can utilize them ourselves. Right? We can be skilled in these things. We don't always have to go to external resources because we can use these tools in a way that works for us. Right? I feel that's cool. It can be like your own personal medicine, so to speak.
It is your own personal medicine. And it takes a little while to kind of shift your thinking from conventional medicine, like you go to the doctor, you have X, they give you Y, and therefore you're supposed to get better. But in this case, it's really about self-evaluation, being really tuned in and observant of either yourself or the other person, or if you're treating your cat or your dog, those kinds of things. You want to really get good at that. And it is a small process, but trust that it is so wonderful once you know it. And it's worth the transitioning from more conventional to homeopathic, but you can actually, you can do both. So I have this thing, I say this, is that I think everyone should have their own healing toolbox. And in that toolbox, there should be a conventional medicine doctor because they have tools that we don't have, and that their tools are tests, pharmaceuticals, and surgery. If that's what you want, that's where you go. But if you're looking for more natural things, you want things that are more gentle, more non-toxic, you might go to a homeopath, and you might go to a naturopath. You might need a chiropractor or a massage therapist if you hurt your back. You might need an acupuncturist if you have, persistent pain. So having these people in your world for you grab and pick what you need when you need it for the condition, you're going to find your health is just totally supported. But if you only lean on one piece or one kind, even someone who is a homeopath, I say you really need to have a conventional doctor. You might consider a chiropractor. You might need craniosacral therapy. It's just, I try to look at the broader picture because our bodies are pretty complex.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that medicine cabinet analogy, right? So we have all these tools and you kind of personalize it to you, right? You have all these things you can utilize. I find that very fascinating too.
Yeah, and they can be very helpful. I'll give a quick example. When I was in a car accident it was like 7 years ago now. I was in a car accident and my back really, really hurt after it. And I was like, I want to get into the orthopedist. I want to get an x-ray. I want to make sure I'm okay, whatever. And they couldn't see me for 2 weeks. And this was before they had urgent care for orthopedics. They have that now, but they didn't have it back then. So I said, oh my gosh, I got 2 weeks before I can go to the doctor. All right, what am I going to do? So of course I was taking homeopathics. And at the same time, I also went to the chiropractor. I also went to a craniosacral therapist because my neck was kind of all out of whack. And I also went to an acupuncturist. By the time I went to the doctor's appointment, I was like, why am I even going? I feel fine. I was fine. Thankfully, there was nothing organic that happened. And so those things healed me in those 2 weeks without painkillers, without any other medications, without any tests. I went to the appointment just to say, hey, I'm really okay, but, what do you think? Can you feel my spine? Do you feel anything out of whack or whatever? Everything was fine. And so having that toolbox, it was ready for me for that situation. It was amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
How do you think homeopathy can fit in with other types of natural medicine, right? Is there like certain circumstances that would be ideal for? Like, how do we know what to use in a given situation?
So again, so there's this book that we created. There are 35 people and myself called Homeopathy Primer. We created this as a study guide, a learning tool, and a reference tool. And it's the kind of thing, so let's say you have fever, right? We created these charts, these amazing charts, so people can look at the names of the remedies at the top and look at all the different things that you would want to have listed off as things that are resonating with you. And so if you have one of those remedies that go, oh, that one looks just like me. I'm craving cold. I don't want warm. I want to lay down. I feel I'm really irritable, And so you say, okay, I'm going to try this remedy. So you have this amazing tool that was created by 35 other contributors and myself who use homeopathy all the time. So these are tried and true concepts. It's now been out in the world almost 2 years. People are loving it. Thankfully, study groups are popping up all over the place where people are using it as their guide. And so that would be something people could do. I'll also share that there's this wonderful kit called Helios. Helios is a pharmacy in the UK where they sell these kits. You can also get them here in the States on Amazon. It's a 36 remedy kit in a 30C potency, so it's a really good start. And this is what it looks like inside. Look at all these little remedies. It's so amazing. And so each one of these does something different for different reasons. And the book and a kit is a great way to start because you want to have the tools available. If you say, you know what, I think I need Nux vomica because my stomach is upset and I overate at Thanksgiving. If you don't have it if you don't have it available, you're out of luck. So having a kit is always wonderful to have because inevitably we get sick on a Friday night, a weekend, early in the morning when we really need something, and having the kit is just like a perfect thing for people to have.
Wow. Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of tools available that we can kind of use at any given moment. So
there are a lot of tools for many different reasons. So when I first started years ago, when my son, with his ear infections, and I was starting my journey into this, I bought this wonderful book, and it's still around, called Homeopathy for Infants and Children, because that was who I was working with. And whenever I needed something, I would go through the book and I would say, okay, what remedy do I need? And then I would go out and buy it. And I started to amass a small little, basket full of these little remedies. And they became very useful to me at different times, like for teething or for diarrhea, or my son had croup. Croup is really scary. So on our way to the hospital, when he had croup, I gave him a remedy. And by the time we got to the hospital, he was fine. I was like, oh my goodness, this was amazing. So having these remedies on hand it's just, I don't know how to explain how useful they are. But that was kind of how it started with me, is I just kind of crept into it. One little step at a time, tried it on my kids. If you give a wrong remedy, 30C or below, typically nothing happens because it's not the right remedy. And if it's the right remedy, a lot of good is going to happen pretty quickly.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Imagine like it's a skill,
cool.
Right? Like
It's
you
a knowledge.
kind of develop the
It's a
skills
little bit
as you
of
go along.
knowledge. Yeah, some of it's skill, but it's really a knowledge of knowing and feeling like a healer. I think is the feeling is when you give Arnica to your kid who fell and they're really sore and they're crying and you see that egg go back in, you kind of feel like really empowered, like, wow, I can do this. And moms, a lot of times, moms and families, they say, I don't know how to do this. I can't handle this. I need to have someone else tell me what to do. And I don't know if that's the best way to go nowadays, because sometimes other people don't know you as well as you know yourself or your family. And you can actually be a better prescriber of what's needed in an acute situation than someone from the outside could be. Not always, but mostly. You can. I use this, I mean, I think it's the coolest medicine on the planet. I use it all the time for all different things.
Yeah. Because as you mentioned, like you know yourself best in your own circumstances, right? So it's being able to, of course, listen to outside voices, but ultimately you have to make the decision and filter it through your own experience, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's what I think is important too, is when you're given something, but even by me or by some other, practitioner, you might want to make sure, is this really going to be something that resonates with you? Is it something you want to take? What is in it? And what are the side effects of it, if there are any? You want to do your research. And it's really important to then decide, no, I don't know if I want to take that medication, or I don't know if I want to take that remedy, whatever it is, or that supplement. Let's say, vitamin C upsets your stomach. Okay, then don't take it, or find a version that has more buffered vitamin C. Those are more naturopathic, but nonetheless, it's like, figure out what works for you. Yeah, you're in charge of your own health.
Yeah. So it's doing some experimentation as well, right? To see what works and kind of go from there, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You play with it. If you make a
Yeah.
mistake, nothing happens. It's the best part with homeopathy. People don't die from taking the
Right.
wrong remedy. They don't. It just doesn't happen. Whereas in the conventional world, if people take either too much medicine or wrong medications, they can have severe allergic reactions, really harmful at times. And people don't know until they take it what's going to happen, and then they're suffering from it. And if possible, they were able to try something less invasive, like homeopathy, before they went to some of the strong stuff, they might not need the strong stuff. Maybe.
Yeah.
And if not, the strong stuff's always there for you.
And are there any side effects that we see? Is there anything we should look out for in general at all?
With homeopathy?
Yeah.
No. There are effects, but not side effects.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
That's good. So it sounds like it's pretty safe to use.
Very safe. I hate to use that word because the word safe and effective, we're just like, everybody heard that during COVID, and it's like, I don't want to keep saying that, but it's non-toxic, which equals safe, in my opinion. So, and it is very effective when the right remedy is chosen.
Cool.
Yeah.
And let's say people are just trying to get into this. Is there a place that would have them start? Anything that they should look to learn from? Of course, you got the book.
Yeah. The homeopathy primer book and a kit is great. But there are, and even in the back of the book, we have this amazing resources. We've really compiled them. There are some amazing podcasts for beginners who want to learn about homeopathy. So you could be listening to podcasts. Even on homeopathy primer website, and even my personal practice website, I have other podcasts that I've been on, so they can listen to other podcasts. And in my website, I also offer free webinars that I had done for a wonderful food co-op here in Massachusetts. And I've posted all of them up there for free. People just have to give us their email address, and therefore, they can watch them. They're less than an hour long on different topics. And so, I'm trying to get people to start using homeopathy at home for themselves and give out free stuff. Why not? Because that's really, I want people to get it. So yeah, they could do that for sure.
Awesome. So when it comes to the different types, like, is there certain sourcing that we should look for? Is there certain methodologies? Like, where are these things coming from exactly?
The remedies, you mean?
Yeah.
So the remedies, I don't make my own remedies. Most homeopaths don't. We buy them from these approved homeopathic pharmacies here in the United States. There's some in Europe and India and others. There are homeopathic pharmacies. And so that's usually what we do. Some homeopaths do make some of their own remedies because they like to do their own mixtures. But for the most part, we buy them from these really good homeopathic pharmacies. But the question could also then say, what are remedies made from? And I would say that they're made from plants, from minerals, and from animals, mostly. That's where you're going to get most of the sets of remedies. We do also make remedies, or the pharmacies make remedies, from diseased body tissue. Remember, like cures like. So if somebody has a disease and we give it to them in a homeopathic form, they can get some healing. It's an amazing concept and how it works. And the tools that homeopaths have is very different than what the public would have. But nonetheless, these are mostly plants and minerals and animals right here, what it's made from. Like I said, Cantharis was a Spanish fly. We have one called Apis, which is made from a bee stinger. We have Pulsatilla, that's made of a flower. Mercurius, it's made from a mineral. Phosphorus is a mineral. So these are all the different names of the remedies, and that's their source, is from nature.
Awesome. And is there anything that we should look out for in particular when we're looking to make purchases? Anything that comes to mind at all?
Again, you want to keep the potency on the lower side. So depending on the pharmacy you go to or the website you go to, you want to stick with 6C, 12C, or 30C. Even I think if you only got any potency, 30C is typically enough, for yourself. But don't go to 200s or 1Ms until you know a lot more about homeopathy, because that's when it can be a problem. So stick with the lower potencies, like boron that has these blue tubes, which, by the way, how to open it is, a lot of people get this thing. How do you open this thing? You turn it upside down and you twist it like this, and pellets fall out, and so you can see these little white pellets. You only need 2 or 3 of them. It says 3 to 5. You only need 2 or 3, and you pop them under your tongue and you let them dissolve, because it's energy medicine that goes into your mucosal lining. And so that's how you would do it. But these vials are some of the best ones to get, at least here in the States, because they're readily available and you can get them in 30C or below. So I highly recommend boron, blue tubes.
Awesome. And what about when it comes to looking for a practitioner? Is there anything we should look out for if we want to work with someone?
Definitely, definitely. So there's a couple of places people can go to vet or to look for practitioners. So the first one would be the Council for Homeopathic Certification. That's the organization that I have my certified classical homeopath from. So it's the homeopathic, what did I just say? I forgot what I just said. But that's the organization that you go to. And then there's the North American Society of Homeopaths is also another place where you're going to find people that have been vetted to a certain extent. They have a little higher education there. They've been deemed, I would say, fit for practice for sure. And so you could go on those websites and you can look for practitioners, go to their website, and they should have, as I do, a free 15-minute consult, because you don't want to just say, I'm going to go work with you, but you've never met them. You don't know their style. You don't know if you resonate with them at all. And it's just nice, even for me as a homeopath, to know who wants to come work with me. Because, I would say 9 out of the 10 times that people come to me, I'm ready to work with them. But that one time that somebody comes to me, I'm like, you know what? Either their condition is not something that I'm really good at, or I'm not so sure I like this person that I'm talking to, then I don't want to engage. So it's important to really resonate with them and get this free consult before you actually jump in with someone. Then the confidence level is also there. You feel like, okay, I like this person. I think I want to work with them. See, working with a homeopath is not as simple as working with a doctor, in that there's lots of paperwork. I ask people for a timeline from the time that they were in utero of their mom all the way up till now. So if they're 15 years old, that's easy for a mom to create that timeline. But if they're 70 years old and coming to me, it's a long time of things that have been imprinted in their lives. So we ask for a timeline and paperwork, and then there's a 2-hour intake, 90 minutes to 2 hours, where we meet on Zoom a lot of times. Once in a while we get to do it in person. And then we come up with remedies, and then we have to follow up. So it's not like go to the doctor, come home, and that's it. It's a relationship that you build with a homeopath. And you talk to them about things that happen to you if you're working with your family, and it takes time and thoughtfulness. So that's why you want to make sure if you pick someone from those websites that you do get that free time with them to say, let me ask the questions. What's the situation? How can I help you, and how can you help me?
Exactly. So it sounds like working with someone that you know, like, and trust would really be helpful as well.
I think so. If you have a chronic condition, if you have chronic conditions or you're really concerned about things, having a homeopath in your healing toolkit is a really, really good thing.
Yeah, For sure. Like basically, working with someone who has the same goals as you and someone who actually believes you can heal, that's really helpful.
It does help. But on the other side, I'll also say some people say, well, what if they don't believe in homeopathy? I said, it doesn't matter. Homeopathy doesn't care if you believe in it or not. I've given homeopathy to, and it's usually men, sorry to say, men, they're being dragged by their wives, and I think you need some help, and they come to me, and and they're like, all right, I'll take whatever you give me, but I don't know if it's going to work, and then they come back, and I say, so how is that? How are those hemorrhoids? How is your stomach problems? Oh, it's gone now. It's all better now. I said, so the remedy worked. Yeah, I guess so.
Wow.
They're kind of, it's funny, it's just part of how we manage cases. But you don't have to believe in order to heal. And if I may, I'll also say that some people say, homeopathy is placebo, that, you do have to believe in it if it's going to work. And, infants, my son, he didn't know. He got better. When I had a dog and she had issues, I gave her remedies. And I've also give it to my plants. It's called agrohomeopathy. When I cut a stem off of one of my plants or I transplant them, I use arnica. I put arnica in some water and I water the plant with arnica, and it seems to thrive. It doesn't die. So homeopathy, you don't have to. Plants don't know. Dogs don't know. Kids, little babies don't know. So it does work. It does. I'm
Wow.
giving
Yeah.
you a lot to think about. I'm seeing your face. You're like, what is this? It
Yeah.
just, yeah, I'm glad. This is good. Keep asking. What else can
Yeah.
I help you with?
For,
Mm.
for sure. Out of curiosity, like, what is the difference between, you know, energy healing that we normally would think of and when it comes to homeopathy? Like, what is the main difference when it comes to that?
So there's body energy healing. You talk about your chakras. You could be Reiki, which is your all of your auras and your energy that way. In this case, it's more internal energy, where it's how is your body holding on to things and not letting things go, or where it needs to be fixed. So I would say homeopathy is more internal energy, where some of those other things are external energy. And they can work very well together. I think energy, our whole life is energy. If we have no energy, we're dead. That's basically it. So if we have energy, we might as well work with it, right?
For sure. Everything is
Mhm.
energy, right? And how you work with that is really going to determine the trajectory of our healing, too.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. I just find it fascinating, right? Because
Mm.
it's like a process, right? It's like there's so many different paths to the goal, but like what is right for you right now? It's being able to be willing, like we willing to try what may not seem like it would work, but hey, if what you're doing isn't working, like being able to try something new, right? Because the conventional medicine system, they're great for emergencies and things like that, but it's like a lot of times they don't have a paradigm of healing, right? So
Hmm.
a lot of times they look elsewhere, right? Even though they mean well, if we want results, we have to do something different. Essentially, is what we're hearing here.
Yeah. So the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and expecting different results. And I
Yeah,
can tell you that people come to me more often than I would like. They're on medications that they've been on for years, could be 10 years, 20 years, like for anxiety or depression. And I say, so are you still anxious? Oh, yeah, I'm really anxious. Are you just still depressed? Yeah, I'm really depressed. They're still taking the medicine, though, because they keep hoping and praying, well, this is what the doctor gave me. This is what I should be taking. Meanwhile, they're not they're not fixed. They're not even getting palliated, meaning it's not even helping temporarily. It's just this prayer and a wish that it's going to be helpful, and it's like, okay, well, you came here because you want some help. Let's talk about that.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the difference between homeopathy and naturopathy?
Great question. So, as I mentioned, homeopathy is energy medicine. It's these little white pellets where all the plants, minerals, animals have been dumped onto the pellets. Whereas with naturopathy, so I have a naturopath as part of my healing toolkit, which is great. And so that healing toolkit, with them, what they can do for me is I can talk with somebody that knows about supplements and herbs and nutrition. And sometimes they can also order blood tests. My naturopath can also do GYN exams, which is unusual, but she can if you're having pelvic pain. And so they do supportive things, preventive things, really great stuff. So I have a naturopath in my toolbox. And homeopathy is the medicine for when things go wrong. When you're sick, when you get the bug bite or you fall down or you have surgery or you have a bad headache. So that's when you have homeopathy for. Like if I have a headache, vitamin C isn't going to help the headache. No, you need to have a remedy for that.
Yeah.
So that's the main difference. But I think naturopaths are incredibly valuable in our world for sure.
Awesome. So it sounds like have these little things come up like whatever it is. It's like these remedies that can be like very effective.
Yes, yes. So having naturopathy, like I take different supplements every day, but again, if symptoms come up, then I turn to homeopathy for that.
Yeah, very cool. Just being able to like again kind of being like a skilled practitioner where you can kind of like know what to use in each situation. I think that's really cool.
It is, and it's not that you know it. Even sometimes a client will call me and they have a urinary tract infection, and they give me all their symptoms, and I look in my own book, in the homeopathy primer book, and I try to say, okay, which remedy might fit them the best. And if it's in the book, I'm going to suggest that to them. If I go, you know what, it's not quite it, then I'll go to my software and I'll do the work that I need to. But I even go to the book. I don't know everything off the top of my head. There's too much to know. That's why you have to have good resources, for you to go back to. That's what this book is really for. Yeah.
Being able to like be a lifelong learner, but have like references. It's like being able to have like principles that you operate out of and guidelines, and then kind of adjust it to the situation. Is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and just feel more empowered and prepared, for anything that comes your way. It makes things a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Preparation is key, right? Because if we're always like learning and being on top of mind with these things, it's so much easier to put it into play when the time comes, right?
Correct. Yes, it does. And homeopathy and learning it, or learning about it, or starting to learn it, and testing it and playing with it and experimenting with it is the only way that you really get good at it. So you just have fun with it. I will say that I have, and other people have. I mentioned study groups. That sometimes learning with other people or having a homeopath that you work with other people, it's really nice to be in that community where everybody's learning at the same time. They share stories. I always start my study groups with, so tell me, what are your questions? But then I want to hear your stories. How have you used homeopathy this month with yourself, your pets, your family? And the stories are amazing. And these are people that are just starting out. They're just learning about it, and they start to get very curious, and they use it, and they just want to learn more. It's amazing how that works.
Yeah, we start to like build this momentum in our lives, right? We start to create positive change and realize that where we are, we don't have to be stuck, right? There's always a solution, even if you can't like get 100% well, like whatever it is. Like I always think we can see some type of improvement.
And the confidence, you start to gain confidence as well, and competence, both in using homeopathy for yourself and your family.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense. Like the more like we use something and keep things on top of mind and stay confident with that, it's like it just makes it a lot more successful process. Because if we're not, I guess being a master of the craft in a sense, and we're not like focusing on different tools and all that, it's like we may come up against a situation where we don't necessarily have the tools and skills in order to be of service like we're meant to.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I think just being curious, some like me, it was just being curious. Just be curious and see, what is this? Huh, that's interesting. And just kind of be fearless about it as best as you can. And the curiosity will just kind of take over. It's amazing.
Yeah. Make sure to have fun in the process too, right?
To what? To what? Sorry?
Have fun in the process.
Yes. Yes. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally feel like the more fun we have in it and like just the more fulfillment that we have, it's like it brings it to a level of effectiveness that we may not see because we're kind of passionate about it. And we can actually see things in the long term. That's kind of how I operate as well.
Yeah. There you go. That's why you do what you do. That's why you're doing this podcast and sharing all this wonderful stuff with the rest of the world. It's great.
Thank you, guys. 100%. It's always about being of service. Like bring tools to wellness, mindset, personal development to people become the greatest version of themselves, right? Because they have that passion and we have our own story. Once we start to see results, it's like, how can I grow? How can I serve? It's like you start to live in abundance and operate out of your full potential too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, like people who say, I'm sick of being sick, or I'm sick and tired all the time. And I'm like, well, life is too short. Wouldn't it be nice to not be so sick and tired all the time? It would be nice to have more energy and to feel more useful. I mean, it's impossible to have a really good life when you're sick
Yeah.
or when you're feeling unwell all the time. You're just struggling all the time. And so having the ability to try to find ways like the energy healing that homeopathy gives will allow a person to live their best life for however long they have on this planet. It's, everyone's,
100%.
yeah, everyone's gonna die. I hate to say that, but and homeopathy doesn't save everybody, but it can certainly make the trajectory less painful than it could with other things that could be given. So
Yeah.
that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Always a path to the goal, right?
Yeah, right.
All right, Abby, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you for coming on the show, sharing your story with us, all your insights, and all your knowledge on homeopathy. It's been fun, and maybe opening some eyes to different things that we can use, right? Just being able to be open to things and put them into play and just be a practitioner of health, right? Being able to be skilled in these things, I find it very fascinating. So thank
Yeah,
you so much. It was an
my
honor.
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so if we can learn more about you and your work, where can we go?
So thank you for asking. So the book is found at homeopathyprimer, primer.com. There's study group information there where you can buy kits. There's a contact form there, so if you have any questions about the book, you can send us a message. My personal website is homeopathyhealings, with an S on the end of healings.com, and that's where you find those free webinars I was talking about and a little bit more information about homeopathy. So either one.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. My pleasure.